Good evening. We good, Frank? Welcome to the May 8th, 2018 meeting of the Pequannock Township Council. Ms. Levine?
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meetings notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy.
Please join me in a pledge of allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks for the individuals serving our nation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding, so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
The clerk will please call the roll.
Miss Florence Lynch?
Here.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Phelan?
Here.
Mayor Winter?
Here.
What was that?
Yeah, what is it? The next item on the agenda is presentations. And it's Emergency Medical Services Week. So, Council, want to join me down?
Sure. You're at camera range. Some stuff.
So this is Emergency Medical Services Week, next week, starting the 20th.
Yes.
But we're going to do this early, so that's good. Rather do it early than late. And I just want to say, before I read the official proclamation, that we're just really proud of the First Aid Squad. You are like service among, you put in so many hours, I don't even know what to think. Rich has all this on our phones, and we hear all the calls, and during the storms, or even, it's just insane what you guys do. So we're just really proud, and I want you to relay that to everybody. And this is a good time, too, so that everybody can realize that you are volunteers, and you always need to continually add new volunteers as people move on, young people go off to college. So I know that this is a good recruiting tool, too. So maybe we can share a little bit of the pluses of why you do this and what you get from it.
If you want, before you read that, I'll just say, in the year 2017, 35 members logged in 17,456 hours of duty, responded to 709 calls, and this year to date, we have answered 250 calls. April 2018, the month of April 2018 was 51 calls. And just a couple of the things that they are always at, the Memorial Day Parade, the Street Fair, the Rotary 5K race, Holy Spirit Carnival, PV School, Middle School graduation, the high school graduation, Lincoln Park Triathlon, Pequannock Fireworks, Pequannock Triathlon, and the Pequannock Boat. Those are just some of the things that they're always at, and we really do appreciate all of your efforts and everything you guys do.
And that's just for little Pequannock, right? 7 square miles. That's a lot. So here we go. Here's what we officially have for you now. Whereas emergency medical services is vital public service, and whereas the members of Pequannock Township First Aid and Rescue Squad are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. Whereas emergency medical services has grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. Whereas the emergency medical services systems consist of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and out-of-hospital medical care providers. That's a lot of services. Whereas the members of Pequannock Township First Aid Rescue Squad engage in hundreds of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their of life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value of the accomplishments of the Pequannock Township First Aid Rescue Squad providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now, therefore, on behalf of the Township of Pequannock and its residents, Mayor Kathy Winterfield and the members of the Township Council do hereby proclaim the week of May 20th through May 26th as Emergency Medical Services Week in Pequannock Township, and the theme EMS, Strong, Always in Service, and encourage the community to observe this week in acknowledging, thanking the dedicated members of Pequannock Township First Aid Rescue Squad. I just kind of looked up a little bit about your theme, because I was really interested. I'm always interested in everything you do, because I know I could never do it, and I hope I never need you. But I have used services like yours in other towns with family members, so I know what you do. So it was this little, it's like a poem, and it really, as I get to know all of you, and every time I meet a new EMS person, it really just, all of this, I kind of pared it down to what really meant, for me, what council thinks about all of you when we meet you. You're all special, and many of you are not even here tonight. But here it is. This is your theme, strong, right? EMS Strong is what draws a special few together to do incredibly important work, often under difficult circumstances and many times with little thanks. EMS Strong is the bond you share with fellow first responders. Sometimes that bond is expressed in a silent nod of recognition, and other times it takes the form of war stories, shared the umpteenth time, but it's always there. And I'm sure you all know what this is between you. EMS Strong is the knowledge that you're part of something very special. It's to believe in something bigger than yourself, bigger than your level of certification, bigger than the color of the patch on your shoulder. EMS Strong is the well from which you draw the fortitude to maintain your composure when the going gets tough and most of the people can't even imagine. EMS Strong is what allows people to trust you with their secrets and their nakedness and their safety and their very lives and the lives of their loved ones. EMS Strong is what draws you to help, but empowers you to face danger when others are running away. It's those in those moments, big and little, when you find out that what you're made of, it makes you proud, it keeps you humble. EMS Strong, and that's you, and that's all of you. And so please, tell it to your fellow members, because we really appreciate everything you do, and so does everybody in Pequannock. Thank you. For all you do. We're going to ask if you want to say anything. Is no one taking the pictures? Sure. Who's that?
Who's taking the pictures, Tom?
Can
we take a picture, Tom? Wally, want to take a picture?
Of myself?
I was up super short. Take a selfie, Paul. You got to take a selfie, Paul.
This is, I'm going to do my best. I need to move in just a little bit.
Squeeze it.
Okay. Smile once. Smile again. Try to get the mayor this time. Okay. All right, thanks.
Hold on,
One more.
Hold on. Smile. Jeez. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Did you want to say something?
Sure. I would like to thank the mayor and council for the recognition you have given the squad, but we can't do it alone. And as Paul took our photograph, Paul part of the Rotary, we can't do it alone. The Rotary has supported the squad many times with donations and equipment and training funds for us, and I thank the Rotary and Paul for that. But the mayor, council, our town manager, we get great support from our leaders of the township and our residents through donations, but we can't do it alone. We do need more members, and we actively are seeking new members. And I'd also like to say, we can't do it alone. If it wasn't for our police department, who gets on scene either before us or with us, our fire departments that come out in the middle of a storm to help us carry somebody down the stairs, our DPW who helped us this whole winter through the many storms we had, driving in front of the ambulance with a plow to get to somebody's house in need. So we can't do it alone, and we have a great township, and on behalf of all of my members, we thank the community for supporting us too. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is reports from volunteers. At this time, are the reports or comments from any volunteers serving our community? Paul?
Is this my turn?
Well, he can. Paul can come up now and talk about the EDC, which is on the discussion item. Do you want to do it now?
Yeah, that's fine.
You want me to do it now or wait?
No, you can do it now.
It's probably a good idea.
The Yankees are on, Paul, and you want to get to that.
We're not gonna make this thing.
Thank you, Dave. I've had the pleasure of serving on the Economic Development Committee for the last year and a half. And some of the things that we like to do is analyze the zoning of Pequannock Township. And we have various zones, commercial, residential. And one of the recommendations that we have made to Pequannock Township is to consider a professional office zone along the R11 zone from our commercial district in Pompton Plains down to the, I'm always going to call it the Big Dip or Hershey's, but it's known as Deli Planet right now. So it's that stretch of roadway. My engineering background made me count the number of properties. There's about 50 properties there. And there's probably about 20 that are not used as residences. There are doctor's offices, there's contractor's yards, there's the municipal complex, the library, the school. So it's a wide mix of uses along that half a mile of roadway within Pequannock Township. Some of the requirements currently ask that any professional use be a resident of that particular property. And one of our recommendations is for you to consider changing that so that the professional office can be used and you don't have to be a resident there. That involves making sure that someone has adequate parking, that you're adequately buffering yourself against residential uses both behind you and the side of you. Some of the properties are suitable, some of them are not going to be suitable. I have had the pleasure of serving Riverdale for 28 years as their engineer/planner, and we have that along the Newark-Pompton Turnpike in Riverdale. It was put in, and Bob's very familiar with this, a long time ago. And I would say about 25% of the properties have that type of use where they're not just residences. So it's something that the committee felt was a strong recommendation to the mayor and council to consider. We sent this on to your planner, Jill Hartman. She came up with some language and some reasons about why you should consider it. And I believe you've all gotten copies of that. And I believe that the process would be consider it. If you'd like to consider it, throw it to the planning board for their comments, because that's the procedure that happens when you're doing something along these lines. And the planning board will come back, I'm sure, with very good comments, because you have a very good planning board about these type of things. It's not going to change the complexion of the Newark-Pompton Turnpike. It's really not going to change the architecture of the Newark-Pompton Turnpike. And we just see it from the Economic Development Committee that it's going to be a plus for Pequannock. It's going to be pro-business. And I think that's one of our major goals in the town. So that's my little presentation about where we are. I could go on and on,
Right.
But I won't. So I'm here for any questions you may or may not have on this particular.
Paul, you've been in front of the planning board many times, and I've seen you many times. So currently, somebody would have to go to the zoning board or the planning board to do a office, or?
I believe they would need to go to the zoning board, yes, because just the situation is that you're supposed to have an acre of property, and there's very few acres of property left on the Newark-Pompton Turnpike.
So I would assume normally the zoning board approves these applications?
I have had two that were turned down.
Okay, sorry.
Just for the record, no, and there's been many that have been approved, all right? In your last master plan, the master plan of the planning board that they put forward for Pequannock said, this is a good idea, you should consider doing this, but it never got implemented, so I think it's a follow-up to what already is in your master plan to encourage professional office use on the Newark-Pompton Turnpike, and that's the procedure. So if I wanted to go in on a piece of property, I would still need to make some kind of application to the board to get approval. It would go to the planning board,
Right,
not the Board of
to the Board of
Adjustment.
Adjustment.
And as you were aware, the burden of proof is a lot
Less,
simpler
okay.
to go to the planning board than it is the Board of Adjustment.
okay, it actually sounds like a good idea. I'd like to think about it and, I guess, kick it around with the planning board.
Well, Jill put this language together. and,
Right, but it still hasn't gone in front of the planning board.
No, it has not. It had to come to you first as a recommendation, and your normal procedure would be,
Is this-
Yeah, we
if you
would-
think it's a good idea, send it on.
Yeah,
If you
what we
don't,
would
then-
do is we would decide after we,
After we have a discussion,
After we
yeah.
have a discussion, we would decide to move it to the planning board. That's how it'll get.
Yeah. No, we appreciate.
We have other recommendations on other zones, but we're not discussing
We
this.
just-
We're not there
One at
yet.
a time.
Take one step at a time. Thank
Baby
you.
steps.
No, we appreciate that.
Language.
Did you have any
Oh, yeah.
questions, Dave?
We did.
What is actually Jill's input there? Is it
I don't think we have
the typed
Yeah,
page?
she's got it. It says EDE professional zone recommendation.
So that's
Well,
what I'm asking. Is that
the
Jill?
memo, no, the memo
That looks
actually
like
came.
from John. Tracy?
I don't know if we have it fully here.
You had made a comment that some of the input in the recommendation already came from Jill. Do you know that for a fact?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't
So-
believe
We did discuss that.
we've seen
with
it.
her. Now, there are no ordinances that are put forward. That's what the
No.
planning
Right.
board starts talking about. So, there's a lot of
She came
meat
to
and
our
potatoes that
economic
has to go into this
development.
ordinance if you're going to decide to
Yeah.
move it forward.
Yeah.
Zoning, parking, buffering, stormwater, a lot of things that go into that.
Right.
But Jill is very familiar with this type of use because she wrote the ordinance in Riverdale 30 years ago, so she's got familiarity with it also.
And a
Right, but
couple.
we don't have anything from her. I haven't seen anything.
No, but a couple of meetings, well, this is the process to get it implemented. So she had come to an economic development meeting a while ago, gave some input. There was, probably a subcommittee of the EDC that helped formulate this with her to put the language together, but now it goes to the planning board and then she can implement it.
Well, first, an ordinance has to come in front of us for us to send
Right.
out to the planning board. There is no ordinance in front of us right now.
Right.
That's
We're-
correct.
Yeah.
No, it's
Just want to make sure everybody is on the
Yeah.
same page here.
We're here for the
have-
recommendation on behalf of the Economic
We're
Development
just
Committee.
formalizing it because Paul had come in front of us talking about this quite a few months ago. We're kind of just formalizing it.
Okay, so, as far as the discussion, what discussion are we going to have until we have an ordinance?
Exactly. I would say move it forward.
Yeah, I would say move it forward.
I would
until-
say move it forward
Yeah,
as well.
So there you go. How's that, Paul?
Great for me. Thank
check
you.
one off
Okay.
our agenda.
All right.
Check one off the agenda.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you again.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Stacy?
Hi, I actually have two reports. One is for the open house that the First Aid Squad had on Sunday. We were actually visited by a member of the Historical Committee, and he actually took some pictures of some of the old memorabilia that we have around the squad building. And he was going to be doing some research on some of that, and I think he was speaking with the historian.
Was that
about-
Paul? Paul Haverman?
Yes.
Okay.
And so, it was a nice day for rain, but, a lot of the members got together, pulled out all the equipment, set up the big tent that everybody wants to use for camping, but, and it's a nice refresher for the members too, to, see the equipment that we don't use
all the
every day. We did have a couple people walk through, and it was a very nice day. The second report is for the Teen Advisory Committee. We had our kickoff meeting on Friday. We had a nice, diverse amount. We had two representatives, student-wise, from the high school here in town. We also had two homeschoolers and another student from DePaul that lives in town. We discussed lots of different things. It was a nice little powwow session that we all had, and one of the key things that they brought up was the lack of communication. Even the Pequannock Township high school students didn't know some of the events that were going on in town. So they were very interested in improving communication between all forms of the schools, DePaul homeschoolers and our own high school. So it was a nice occasion.
When is our next meeting with the Board of Ed? Has there been one recently?
There's one scheduled.
Because we should just circle back. We have a quarterly meeting with the Board of Ed, two representatives from council. So it's something we should, any input you
Put it
want.
on the agenda.
Yeah, because some of the students from the high school said that they don't actually look at the digital backpack.
Right.
Maybe some parents do, but the students don't. And we were discussing how we could possibly put up flyers as long as they're approved by the principal. And really any information that we can get back and forth between everyone is, I think, beneficial. So.
Okay, thank you. That's good. When's the next meeting, Stacy?
We actually rescheduled it for the 31st of May.
Okay. And that's here?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. The next item on the agenda is public comment. The public comment period will be limited to a total of 30 minutes. An additional period of public comment is reserved later in the meeting. Individuals are requested to limit their questions and comments to 3 minutes. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized, come to the microphone, and provide your name and address for the record. Steve?
Steve Connolly, 44 Duncan Avenue. I just wanted to thank Dave Cole for coming to the lessons. We had a great set of lessons in Greenview past month and a half. We had a few rain days, but it was great. We had a lot of fun. The kids had fun. So I don't want to jump the gun here and open discussion, but I just wanted to, since the letter for the skate park's on the item for discussion, wanted to just add some input for you. I spoke to Peter Whitley, the program director at the Tony Hawk Foundation, and he did say that a letter will help with fundraising. Shows that the township's moving the project forward. One thing that another thing would help, and Dave's not here, would be to move on to the phase 2 of the design, which is getting the permitting and the construction documents done. Because then that also shows that you're moving things forward. And as well, we can do the park in 2 phases, and that would be a time where, when you're moving on to doing the construction documents, that's when it's addressed, because that was in the RFP to do it in 2 phases. So it's an option to do that, and we could build a park for $250. If it's done rather for the first phase, you set that as a target, and we could raise. It would be an easier battle for us to raise that money when your target's 100,000, and when you're closer, people are also willing to give you more money. So keep that into consideration when moving forward. I just think it's a good idea to, in my eyes, in our eyes, it's not a question of if, but when, that we're going to get this done. We understand there's money to be raised, but we just want to have some help here. That's really it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Did you get a picture of Dave on a skateboard?
Dave.
I stopped by.
I did suggest, well,
third after one of my baseball games.
I was hoping to get a picture of you on a skateboard, man.
No.
We are working with Skate Now, who, by the way, Boonton Township just started a extracurricular activity with the schools, an after-school program with Skate Now, so they're actually added in their program skateboarding at the middle school. But Skate Now is also doing, and we're working with them to kind of do a fundraiser where adults and kids have a 2-hour workshop where Dave could come and we'll supply pads, helmets, skateboard.
Bubble wrap?
And you can learn. It's never too late.
I don't think Dave's getting on 4 wheels.
So, thanks for your time.
I have a question for you.
I paid for that picture, man.
You talked about the Tony Hawk Foundation. I guess I don't want to be misled that we don't qualify for any Hawk money.
You have to be below the median income of household income for the state, and as of the 2010 census, and we're like, I think it was around 70.
So we're way.
We're way out of line. I mean,
So
the
they're
first
just
thing he said to
advising.
me was, your town's too, he actually said your town's too.
So they're just
rich.
advising you?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's actually a really good asset, and they want to know. I mean, who knows? As things come, they might help us out, but
But
yeah.
for their standard
But with
grant,
their
we don't
program, with the
qualify.
grant program, yeah, we don't qualify.
Okay.
So we wish we did. They did a really big grant in upstate New York, so recently, and Michigan recently, but.
Okay, all right.
Right. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public?
Done.
They're done.
Hi, Donna Satani, 117 Greenwood Ave, Pequannock. All right, I have two things that I need to ask, I guess. The first one is, in Washington Park, all the dirt that has been sitting there from, I guess, the excavation of the new field that's going in there. All right, we've had several very, very heavy rains, and that stuff is just washing all over the place. What's the plan for that?
Well,
Like,
That's the
where?
township manager.
yeah.
That's where I say, I'll get back to you. Oh,
Yeah, our township manager's out of town, and,
okay. Okay.
So we don't,
So
Can
none
it
of
be
us
looked
really
into?
know the answer to that.
yeah, we can't answer that.
Can it be looked into then? Mm-hmm. Okay.
He'll be back tomorrow.
All right, that I would appreciate. And also, I know you had tabled, I guess is the word, the skate park resolution 2 months ago. And what's happening with that?
It's, nothing's happening with that. We have an item for discussion tonight. When we get to that, you'll hear us discuss it.
Okay,
It will be a letter, it won't be a resolution.
okay. All right, so
Or-
then,
I don't think it's going to be. The resolution appeared to be shot down.
Right, so now
Right.
then they asked for a letter. We went back and forth between a resolution and a letter.
okay, and what about that $250,000 that was in the
It's
budget?
not in the budget for
It's
the
not in the
skateboard park.
budget.
It went towards sidewalks and road resurfacing.
Okay,
There is $150,000 left in the 2017 budget that was originally put there.
that was carried over.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so then all we're committed for right now is $150,000.
Plus the
Whether this-
$30,000 that we paid for the design,
Yes.
which we already spent.
Well, we didn't pay all of that. We didn't spend all of that yet, and there is a phase in there to put a construction bid package together. That's what Steve was talking about.
Okay, and they're still considering Washington Park in the flood zone?
We haven't had a discussion yet. When we have a discussion.
Okay.
That's kind of where we left it, though.
Yeah, that's what I
But
thought.
we haven't, tonight will be the first we talk about it again.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, Kyle?
Kyle Russell, 6 Walnut Ave, Pompton Plains. I just want to remind the council what our township manager did say last week. In discussing about a letter, he said, "We did speak about the letter. Resolution is how the council takes action. Despite some comments that have been made at previous meetings, we do resolutions of support for legislation. We support grant applications. That's how council takes action, is by resolution. You vote on it, make your," and I couldn't get that word out, "known. You support or don't support." So in my conversation with Bob, I don't know who's going to write a letter. I'm not writing a letter saying how council feels because I don't know how they all feel. So I just want to keep that in mind when we discuss a letter. I also think to keep talking about a skate park when some of you aren't even sure that's where you want it, or let's do, it's always a little thing. Now it's like, let's just do a permit package. Let's just do this, when we're not even sure where we're putting it at this point. Some people are not comfortable at Washington Park. Some people think it would be better elsewhere. I just think we really have to stop and see what happens with this. Go back to phase 1, because we just keep spending money for no reason. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? No? Okay. Next on the agenda is public hearing on ordinance 2018-08. Ms. Levine.
Bond ordinance providing for the elevation of flood-prone homes in and by the Township of Pequannock in the County of Morris, New Jersey, appropriating $5,001,492. Therefore, what?
They're saying goodbye.
And authorizing the issuance of $5,001,492 bonds or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof.
Are there any comments from council?
Nope, we discussed it.
Okay, is there a motion to open a public hearing?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance 2018-08.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. If anyone in the audience has questions or comments on this ordinance, please come to the microphone and identify yourself for the record. Okay. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close public hearing, ordinance 2018-08.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2018-08.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Ms. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winter?
Yes. Next on the agenda is public hearing on ordinance 2018-09. Ms. Levine?
Ordinance authorizing the grant of a utility easement over Block 3315, Lot 12, to Public Service Electric and Gas Company.
Are there any comments? Council?
Yeah, this is the one we talked about last time at Washington Park.
This is for the animal shelter.
Right.
Okay, is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing, 2018-09.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. If anyone from the audience has questions or comments on this ordinance, please come to the microphone and identify yourself for the record. Okay. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close public hearing on ordinance number 2018-09.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2018-09.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd? Oh, sorry. Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Next agenda item is Resolution R 2018-92, the adoption of the 2018 municipal budget. Ms. Levine.
Be it resolved by the governing body of the Township of Pequannock, County of Morris, that the budget herein set forth is hereby adopted and shall constitute an appropriation for the purposes stated of the sums therein set forth in appropriations totaling $19,320,830 and authorization of the amount $12,076,096.95 for taxes to be raised for municipal purposes. Sorry, I can't read it. It's dark up here. $144,387.21 for the Open Space, Recreation, Farmland, and Historic Preservation Trust Fund levy, and $901,305.05 for the minimum library tax. The budget was approved for introduction on March 27, 2018. The public hearing was scheduled for and held on April 24th, and the budget is ready for adoption at this time.
Okay.
That's a lot.
I know.
There's a lot of numbers.
Yeah, I was confused.
Those are hard numbers to say.
Yes.
Ms. Marsh, it says, do you have anything to say?
I have nothing to add.
Are there any comments from council?
Nope.
No.
Melissa?
No, we're good.
Okay. The only comment I have is I agree with the budget in totality. I'm a little discouraged that we didn't have robust debate on the capital budget. So in total, I agree, but I hope that when we have our next budget season, that there's more discussion on the capital projects. That's my comment. So is there a motion to adopt the 2018 municipal budget?
I'll make a motion to adopt the 2018 municipal budget, which is known as 2018-92. Am I reading that right?
Yes.
I'll second.
How did we go from 08 to 92 or 09 to 92?
Where's the 19?
Ordinance to resolution.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's
a resolution.
million there.
Roll call?
Ms. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Next on the agenda, there's no ordinances. Next one is resolutions. Ms. Levine.
Resolution 2018-93, authorizing tax office refunds, overpayments, or cancellations. Resolution 2018-94, authorizing utility office refunds, overpayments, or cancellations. Resolution 2018-95, approving the designated special event permit applications for the Holy Spirit Carnival and the Thunderbird Car Show. Resolution 2018-96, supporting New Jersey legislative bills A 1627 and S 1873 to clarify volunteer positions do not impact retirement benefits for public employees. And Resolution 2018-97, approving payment of the itemized claims as set forth on the May 4th, 2018 bill list.
Thank you. Are there any comments on the resolutions from council?
Nope.
Dave or Melissa?
I'm good.
No, I don't think so. We were just discussing before, though, how some of these applications for the things usually have, like, maps. I don't even think we had them this year, but maybe it's because nothing changed.
Both of those are repeat.
Right, that's why we didn't put them. We were just discussing it before.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only question I have, Carol, the substitute manager, is I did see on here $879 for carry-in, carry-out bags for the parks.
I asked that question last night, and Pete has been away on vacation.
Yeah, so I was happy to hear.
Barb did not, she said that she knew that they had put in for it. She was not aware that they were in yet, but she was going to check with Pete as soon as he got back from vacation.
Because that's something the council talked about, putting in the parks.
Yep.
So that people, like when they bought their ice cream from the ice cream man or something, had somewhere to put the garbage or the, you know. So that was, that's good news.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt these resolutions?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolutions 2018-93 through 2018-97.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Ms. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. The next item on the agenda are items for discussion. So the first one was the EDC zoning recommendation. I think
we should move that forward.
Yeah, I think Councilman Phelan's recommendation to send it to the planning board is a...
Well, we need an ordinance first.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it'll take
So
some
that would
time.
be the next thing. Can you make sure that gets on for the next meeting, Carol?
Well, it has to be
We've got to write
drafted.
an ordinance, right?
Well, that's what I mean, the draft.
And I don't-
Whip one up, right?
I don't know if you can draft it from that memo, though. I mean, I think you need the details from the planner, right?
Oh, yeah, we're being facetious. We'll have to get to Jill and ask her to
Yeah.
get us a...
Because the memo that's in our packet is kind of just like describing it.
Yes.
It doesn't get into the details.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And then the other one, I think, was just for information.
Yeah, we didn't have a meeting,
Yeah.
so I don't know if we can discuss the ordinance.
This is the, well, you don't need to discuss
That just
it.
backs up
It's
what we already
there.
did.
Right.
It's there, so we know that it's still in the
Okay,
works.
so it's not for discussion, right?
It's not really for discussion, unless
Right.
you want to.
No, here, can
No, I
you
think-
pen, please? I want to close it off.
No, I think we were good. Yeah, we were good. We were all in agreement on that, so.
But what was the
It's
reason for putting it back on as a discussion
It's a
item?
holding place.
Because the planning board didn't have a meeting on it.
Oh, okay.
It's just so everybody knows that it's still
Moving along.
Go in
moving
front
along
of
the
the planning board.
process. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's okay. Okay, and then the other one is Councilman Cole.
All right, I asked to put the letter regarding the skateboard park on. I apologize that it came in late. I did not remember about it because it was a little hectic week at work last week until I got the agenda sent by Michelle, and then I called and Carol was away until she was off at a conference on Thursday and Friday.
That's fine.
So, as you recall, I have a friend that does professional fundraising. She said the resolution was not necessary. A letter would be sufficient for them to fundraise. I don't think we should put it on the back burner. I think, and start all over. I think that we should possibly provide them with the letter so they can start trying to raise the funds. I think it's going to be a very difficult task to raise the $250,000 for it. I think the letter should be very generic. I think it should say that the council has set aside $150,000 in the 2017 budget to build a skateboard park in Pequannock Township with no location. and the cost of the $382,000, mention the cost of what the final project is estimated to be. I think the committee, the Skateboard Park Committee, should be providing us with updates on the funds that they receive every 6 months. This way, we know how much they're collecting and how close they are to raising the funds. I do not think we should do any permits right now until, that a significant amount of funds are raised. I think that there's a majority of us that do not like the location of Washington Park, so I do not think that that's going to be a feasible location. But we will have time as they get closer to raising their funds to try to find another location. And that's all I really have to say about it.
Well, the rough thing about that, I think, is the location was voted on, and that's how we went out and made the design based on the location. That was very key into part of that package, right? So does that mean that we start over? I don't know. I don't know if that design can go somewhere else or not. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I don't claim to know if that can just be put somewhere else.
There was one other thing that I omitted. I do think, and I strongly suggest that the skateboard nonprofit change their when they do get donations, at least donations from town. I think those donations need to stay in town. I did speak to the president of the PBA, and I said to him, are you okay with, if you make a donation, are you okay with those funds going out of town if this project does not proceed or is able to be completed? And he said that he would not really appreciate those funds going out of town, and they will not be making a donation until they are close to reaching their goal, but they still are very committed to the project.
Well, the one thing is you talked about an estimate, that 382, that's not an estimate, that's a probable cost. I would think, as they had suggested, possibly that we do go at least for the bid package for a proper cost. I don't think we know what the real amount is. It was part of the contract that was already approved with Wayne Ingram. So I don't even know if we're, I don't know.
Is it really worth going for permits? I mean, if we...
No, it's not permits. Yeah. No, not permits. Not permits. I'm not talking about permits. I'm talking about proper costs. So I don't know if you want to include any of that in the letter, or we want to start to draft the letter.
I think if they get, if they collect $100,000 in donations, I think we'll have plenty of time to go out to bid for a proper cost on the project. But I think they really need, and I think they need this letter for potential donors. No donor is going to make a donation, at least a corporate donor is not going to make a donation without something stating that the town has vested money into this project.
Do you think...
The second thing they need is they need to be able to show them what the project is going to look like.
Right.
They have that because we pay for the design. But I do not believe they will be able to get corporate funds without something from the town.
I don't think so either.
Do you want me to jump in? I have similar comments to Dave, although I'm still more concerned with the fact that I still don't think there's enough buy-in that you're going to be able to get the donations, because with the fact that you want a letter saying that we have this design, even though we're not stating where it's going, the majority of us don't think it should go in Washington Park. So to your point, is that design that we have even suitable to go somewhere else, whether it's behind Town Hall or somewhere else? Or do we need to go back to the drawing board and, if there's a will, there's a way. Work with the town, work with, if they were to look at a new location, working with the first aid, working with our employees, working with the town to see if there's a suitable location back here. or another location, because I don't think anyone's on the same page to go for it to be built at Washington Park.
Well, we'd have to do another vote to see if that's true or not.
So I don't know, and the other thing I was going to say is, I agree that if you're going to go out and get donations, but then it's not going to come to fruition, that they're not going to want to see those donations go out of town. So we got to figure out a way that can work for you. But I just think that we should collaboratively, I'd like to see the group still continue. Like I said, if there's a will, there's a way, but just work more collaboratively with other people in the community, including those that aren't necessarily for it or against it, but they want to add input. And then you can talk a little bit more about the operations of it and whatnot. That's my thoughts.
I'm not an engineer either, but I personally think that skateboard park could be put anywhere.
Yeah. Well, we'd have to look at it.
And if it is put somewhere other than in the flood, it could also come in cheaper, because I think there's a good chunk of change in that estimated cost for that fill and taking out the dirt.
Oh, I do too, but that's what we need to do. We need to find a new location, and then...
Well, I think the first thing that we really need to do is, there's no sense of us finding a location until we know that they're able to raise funds.
Yeah. Anyone else? Rich, you got thoughts on it?
Why me?
You're the only one left. Ryan's not here.
Well,
the township manager.
Okay, I'm going to make a couple of comments. I heard what Steve said. He wanted to downsize it and do it in 2 phases. That I did hear him say. And the original intent of this was to spend $250,000, and then it kind of mushroomed out to a higher expense. What I don't believe in kicking the can down the road, and I think we keep doing that.
Right.
But I'm going to make this comment now. We really can't have this discussion without Mr. Holberg here, because he sat in here and said he will not do a letter. So now we're saying we're going to do a letter.
Well, I spoke to Mr. Holberg after the meeting.
And he said, Mr. Oosdike said you can't do it.
And he said to me, he said, if the majority of the council is in favor of a letter, tell me what you want in the letter. I will, at the next meeting, come to the meeting with a sample letter as an item of discussion.
He did say that. I was here for that.
Well, here's the thing.
That was right after our meeting.
Is Mr. Holmberg only has one more meeting. So you have to draft a letter, agree on a letter.
Well, he said
and get it done in one meeting. Or we have to start with a new manager, and we have to bring him completely up to speed.
Right.
He has probably very little knowledge about all we've been doing this since September 2015. This is like an old subject.
And that is the only reason, Rich, that I brought it back up.
No, Dave,
discussion.
Everybody labels me as the bad guy on this thing, and I don't want to be the bad guy.
I don't think you're the bad guy.
Well, I think I am. But I don't want to kick this. I don't want to keep kicking this can down the road. I do think Mr. Dave Holberg needs to be here to explain, and I hear what you guys are saying, but he said it in a public meeting that he's not going to do or if we do everything by resolution.
But when I said it didn't mean anything. He says that it's fine.
And you said it too, Kathy.
Yeah,
I think I did.
Kathy did say that.
Okay.
So I think that's why it was off the table, because we all thought that a letter would make a difference.
Yeah, I truly believe it should be a resolution, but whatever it is, it's both the same thing. They're both meaningless because they're not binding.
Okay, so I don't have to...
They're only good for fundraising.
Right, so I don't have to make a decision tonight because we're short one...
Oh, no, it's just for a discussion anyway.
So
there's no decision
do we
made.
want Dave to try to come up with a sample letter for the next meeting?
Well, we'd have to tell him what to put in it.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's generic, that we've set $150,000 aside, Bob, $150,000 aside in the 2017 budget for a skateboard park to be built in Pequannock Township. The estimated cost of the project is $382,000.
The probable estimated.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, as time goes on...
It's not that, they'll think that's a bid package, and
Yeah.
it's not.
As time goes on, the price is going up.
Yeah, well, it says we've been at this since 2015.
And that we have asked the skateboard, what's your official name?
Pequannock Skate Park Association.
Pequannock Skate Park Association to raise the remaining funds.
Well, I like what you said, Dave, if you'd be willing to put this in there, is that if they reach $100,000, council will move forward with a bid package to get the final actual cost. Because then that would be helpful to be a milestone to move maybe in some direction. You know? That would be helpful, I think.
I mean, the only thing regarding a letter, the best I would probably agree to is that we would, agree no more up to $150,000 to be contributed toward a skateboard park to be built in Pequannock Township somewhere.
Well, we're saying that, but we have set aside. I'm not in favor of putting any more money toward it.
But I'm not comfortable with putting a target number in there to then move forward.
What do you mean a target number?
To move forward with a bid package to get a real cost? Why wouldn't you want to know the real cost at some point?
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, if...
it doesn't mean anything, Melissa. It doesn't mean anything. It's meaningless. It's not binding. It's nothing.
Well,
it's for fundraising.
Let's see how quickly and how successful they are in the first... Let's give them a year. So if they're successful in the first year, if they're able to raise that $100,000, we can bring it back to... They can give us a report every 6 months. They can tell us how much money they're raising. If they're at that $100,000 mark after the year, we need to have that discussion whether we're going to move this
or be done with
a solid figure number.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, and then if the number does come in less than $382,000, I think we should change the letter to reflect the actual cost of the project. But, like I said, it's not going to be an easy task to raise $100,000 or the $250,000 to complete the project. Frank has his hand up. I think he wants to know if he can comment on this.
Well, it's not public comment, but I'll make an exception, Frank. No, it's fine. You can come up. Might as well. As long as it's positive.
He's writing a check.
There we go. As long as it's constructive and brings the conversation forward.
Frank Spazzeri, 35 West Franklin Avenue. I sit back here most times listening to you guys. All the conversation is about what you're going to do. There has been no vote on any one of you guys to say, I'm for it or I'm against it. I think that should be your first priority. If you're not for it, then we're wasting a lot of time, a lot of money, and wasting these guys' time if they're going to go out and start hawking money.
I'm for it if it costs the town $150,000 and they can raise the rest of the money.
Well,
we voted to put that money
I think it's got to be a vote. You guys have to decide
I think anyone's against
what you're going to do. I'm not trying to knock it down. I'm just saying, sitting back there listening to you, you keep kicking it, like he says, kicking the can down the road. But I have not once heard any of all of you say, I'm for it or I'm against it, except Rich. And now you.
Well, I think...
I said for it or against it.
I think when we voted for the budget in 2017, we all knew that there was $150,000 set aside for a skateboard park.
And that was
we
5
all
yeses.
voted yes for the budget.
We didn't know where it was going. We didn't know how much...
But what about the continuation of what we're doing now? You want to go for a bid for something else. That's going to be another expense that you're going to have to do.
A bid? Yeah, well...
We had a vote for a location.
I was the only one that voted
We voted 4-1 for that location. That's how we went on to the design.
Right.
And we had the money for the design. We put the money in the budget. 5 of us voted for that. Nobody has said they've been against the skate park. It's just a matter about how to do it.
I think the biggest complaints that the residents had was the location of the skateboard park, and I think we've all heard that there's a big issue with the location, and the majority of the residents do not want it built there.
There were other people got up here and talked about, the expense of
the other issue was spending $382,000 to build a skateboard park.
Exactly.
Correct. Those were the two things.
I'm not a businessman, but if I can get something built for $150,000 that costs $400,000, I'm all for that.
That's good business, Dave.
That's good business.
Yeah. Steve said that they want to do phase one, it'd be about $250,000, then they want to do phase two. Now you're talking $500,000 for the total park.
You're probably right, Frank, because time, money, the value of money over time.
And that's why there's
And like I said again, I'm in favor of the 150 and the 150 only.
Okay.
Whether it's phase 1, 2, or 3.
So everybody else is too, I guess. I don't know.
I don't have to say anything.
I'm not for it. Okay, I just, I sit back there listening to you all, and other people have gotten up here and said the same thing, you guys say yes, okay, let's do it, and let's do it. If not, say no and don't do it.
Stop
one or the other.
Can down the road, Frank.
We've done this with many projects, not just this one. We talked about the sewer out on 23 for how many
You want to
years?
discuss it with Dave?
Yes, I will discuss it with Dave. And I think Dave's position is not that he can't do a letter. I think Dave's position is he's not going to do a letter until he understands from the council.
What to say.
That you are all on the same page as to, or a majority of you are on the same page as to what would be in a letter, and of course, that's only fair.
Right. That makes sense to me.
There's people.
Will we wait till after?
No, let him speak now.
Yeah, go ahead. On this subject?
Because we're just going to
yeah,
pass
come on
it
up.
anyway.
We don't have much else to do anyway. We're good.
Good evening, Council. Sharon Taylor, 19 Libby Avenue, Pompton Plains. As you were talking about the letter and whether there was people in favor of where the location is there someone within the municipal that can provide a list of other locations that would work to have a skate park in?
There might be one that comes up, but we don't know.
What do you mean? I mean, because land is so important to everybody here, and a location, that if you're not in favor, at one point, everybody was in favor to Washington Park, and now nobody is. Even if you were to do a letter or a resolution to put in, even the letter saying there is favorable locations available.
We're not putting in that, we're not putting it in the letter.
I'm just saying, though, you need, when people go to get sponsorship, they need to be, they need to be available to say, hey, there's a few locations in town that are going to be good to put the skate park in. Otherwise, there's no location. So if you're not in favor of Washington Park, you should provide a list to the committee of the locations that would be good.
Sharon, and to your point, that's kind of what I'm saying, like they should continue to vet locations.
They did that.
No, they did. There was a few locations, and let me tell you, I'm not on the committee.
Exactly.
I'm not on the committee, but I went to the meetings, and there was even after the meeting that a few of us took a ride to the different locations, and we actually stood out there and talked about it.
There's a couple.
So there was, and then Washington Park was a good location.
That's what was
That was
voted
what
on.
was voted. So everybody's coming back and there's an environmental issue or whatever with Washington Park. I'm asking the council, and, Dave's not here, but who in this township and in this municipal can provide a list of locations so that the team can at least be prepared and start looking at that design and be knowledgeable, so when they go to find sponsorship, that they have a location that's going to be available. Companies will ask,
Right.
where is
I
it going
tend
to
to
be?
agree with you, Sharon.
Okay, so that's all I'm asking.
And I'm going to tell you why, because if you're using this as an excuse not to have a skate park because of the location, that's wrong.
Yeah.
It is, okay? So maybe coming up with a couple of spots is better. Then somebody can't say, well, I don't like the spot, and that's why I don't want to vote for the skate park.
Right. Right.
Honest. I mean, you could use
And
that
that's
as an
all I'm
excuse.
saying, when I sit out
I
here, that's
agree.
what I'm listening to, and I'm just saying, it's okay to, because if you're saying, well, we don't have a location, we don't know yet, and then everybody's saying if they raise the money, I mean, we need to give that team support. They will raise that money. That's the goal that they're going to set, and they're going to do it. But I really feel that if if we're going to pursue doing this, that there needs to be a list of locations that that team can either relook and look at that design to see if it will fit, but also be prepared that as soon as they get the go, whether it's a resolution or a letter, that they get the go to say, okay, when we talk to these companies, we're able to say, these are potential locations in town that we're looking at, and this design is going to fit in there, whether it's phase 1, 2, or all. That's all.
Sharon, what that does is takes the excuse out of somebody voting no because of the location.
So, I don't know if you can follow up with Dave or Carol, see if...
I don't know if we can say right now the locations, and if we don't come up with the letter...
Well, I think
the project is pretty much dead.
No, well,
You're not going to be able to fundraise without something from the town saying that we've set aside $150,000. So we either come up with a generic letter for them...
Because at one point, and
or we tell Dave, take the $150,000 and spend it somewhere else.
Well, at one point, though, the locations, there were a few locations that were discussed in the council meetings.
There were like 9 locations, and it was narrowed down.
And the team went through. So if Washington Park doesn't work out, what are the locations that are available? That's it. That shouldn't be a hard thing to find out.
No, it's not. We had the list.
Yeah,
like
so if Dave can provide, or someone in the township can provide them with the list, and at least if the letter resolution goes along, that they're able to, and something in the resolution or the letter should say that there are potential locations that the skate park fits into that would help them reach their goal and be considered for a $100,000 fundraising goal.
Right. Well, I'm sure by the time we draft this letter, there'll be a new manager, there'll be a new location, maybe, there'll be a whole...
That's right, but, you know, that would be helpful.
You got to start somewhere.
Kathy, as the clock ticks, the price continues to
That's right.
It will.
Hey, I ain't holding anything up. What are you looking at me?
Or it could go down if the soil was...
Hey, I said that too.
Because if there is an environmental issue with Washington Park, like I said,
no environmental issue.
then everything should be tested at Washington Park.
There's no environmental issue. We put that to rest.
But to Dave's point, I think because it was going in the flood area, the expectation is that it's going to cost more to build it there than it would at another
because the ground is so
location.
wet.
You know what? We don't know. The tennis courts are all cracked because there was no soil testing.
And that's the same black mud
It's the same
over at
thing.
Washington.
And that's pretty much...
Correct.
Pequannock is a farmland.
Okay, so that's if Dave or someone could provide a list, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Steve, go ahead. I see your hand there.
Sorry, I know this isn't public comment, but there were some things that you guys were discussing that...
Public comment, but speak publicly comment.
About this item only.
Yeah, so what Sharon was saying, yes, the location is important, especially when fundraising. You need the location. It's one of the main components. Can a design be put at another location? I talked to Brad about that. He said, yes, it can. You will have to deal with, issues of the soil, or if there's possible testing needed, as we did there, a geotech report. That's very common. Whenever you do a skate park, you do a geotech report. Maybe, with all this discussion, it would be wise or an idea to start a committee. I don't want to start that again, but think about it, maybe with other committees that report to town council, such as the flood committee, the environmental committee, the planning board, so that everybody's interests are addressed and everybody's heard. And with the idea that these people are volunteering and they're not there to derail this, but they're there to help and to find a place. So that's an idea. Or you could find the locations, possible ones from possibly the new town manager, and do a survey, like an online survey, SurveyMonkey or something, through to the people in the town. As far as our charter goes, it's very generic, and it just states that it goes to a similar organization involved with skateboarding. We probably would have gave it to Solid Foundation because they've helped us out a lot, and they do serve people in this kids in this town. but we do not plan on failing. I mean, I'm serious when I say that it's not a matter of if, but when. So even if it's what we're doing now with the lessons, I don't know, but we will build a park somewhere, somehow. If it's not this council, it's the next, because we're teaching kids to skate. They're going to want a place. It's inevitable. Next thing, going back to that with the charter, yeah, we'll definitely change that. But the Boys and Girls Club, if that's an issue, we have no problem with that.
I don't care if
my
it's
son
first
goes
aid
there.
squad,
I love that
fire
place.
Well, I'm sure you could return the
Library.
funds.
Yeah, we just put it in our. We could put it in our charter. I mean,
You
that's not
return
an
the
issue.
funds back to the people.
Yeah, I mean, we have no problem with that, but again, we don't anticipate folding. We'll keep dragging it on for years.
Steve, please.
Yes, we will not go away. I think that's all. If there's any other questions you guys had, I can answer that now.
Can you remind me what the top 3 locations were besides?
There were 2 at PV Park. Across the street, there's a corner property.
That triangle.
Yeah.
Triangle there.
There's a triangle property across the street. You'd probably need some kind of traffic stoppage. But, kids don't really run back and forth. Young guys will, and girls.
Right.
But, and again, the way skate parks are now versus they were 10 years ago, they're very much more family-oriented than they used to be. They're not modular parks anymore. They're family-oriented concrete parks. So I don't think you're going to see much of a problem with that there. The other location was past the beach area. I like that location too. I mean, it would require taking down a couple of trees, but there was an open place there. So those were 2, and then Washington Park. We didn't select Mountainside Park, where the dog park is, because it's so much out of the way and hard for kids to get to, say like after-school kids from middle school. That's why Washington Park we felt was great, because they could just shoot right over there. And probably give the librarians a break. Greenview, we talked about Greenview. Rich knows, he was there.
It's too far away.
I personally liked it. I go there all the time. We had the lessons there.
It's close to your house.
It is. And there's always people there. I mean, you're in the area. So there's also, is there spots there? I don't know, maybe. But it's something to be discussed. And I think it's great that you guys are all talking about this right now and figuring out a way to move it forward. It's great for us. So
And so 2 more things. So the only reason behind here wasn't explored further was because the first aid squad didn't want it there, right? That was
Because I fought it too.
No, I know, but that was the main reason, right?
Rich
That's all I'm
and the
asking.
first aid squad, he was
Yeah, well, he was speaking on behalf of
instrumental in that.
Yes,
We love it. I would love to put it where the basketball courts are, move the basketball courts. That's just me. But hey, one thing we did not want to do is take over some other space that's being used by kids. I mean, that's, unless it's not being used, if it's antiquated or repaired or already there's thousands of other of these places in the town, then maybe,
And I agree. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from, like, if that's a dangerous situation, putting it back here. But that's what I keep meaning when I say vetting the location. There, perhaps, if there was more exploration done, maybe it could work back here somehow.
I would have loved it. Yeah, we talked about all these places for a year, maybe.
So whether it's redirecting traffic or whether it's setting it back further, it's just food for thought, and that's the only reason I keep talking about the exploration.
Well, plus you have the rail trail.
Right, with the rail trails.
And that's another reason why Washington we thought was great, because of the proximity to the rail trail.
Right.
And one big thing is
trying to get out of
is not to have it tucked away.
Right.
The skate parks don't. it becomes a place for other people to come and cause trouble at night. It's not, skaters aren't doing anything when you see like other towns, skate parks tucked away where, let's just put it back there. They fail, and they get tagged, and they're an eyesore, and they don't get used. And the equipment doesn't get repaired, and so the kids don't skate there, so.
The cycle.
Yeah, it's a cycle, and that's part of what creates this, skate park thing with some people because of that. So, yeah, we talked about the locations for a while, but, if you want to redo that,
Well, we can always do a letter like Dave had recommended. You can always update the letter as discussions progress and things happen. You just do an initial letter and then you update it as things happen. I thought that was a good idea too.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for your insight.
So we'll just put it on the agenda for when Dave's here, I guess, right, guys? And I guess, Bob, you have enough to start something?
Frank's got his hand.
All right.
Oh, Bill's leaving. Thought he was going.
I'll see you at the carnival, Bill.
Frank Spazeri, 35 West Franklin Avenue. Actually, being on the Open Space Committee, the areas that Steve just mentioned over at PV Park, they are also flood areas.
I didn't want to mention that.
So you're in the same situation whether you're at Washington Park or you're at PV Park. And PV Park is worse, because that's when that lake comes up and it comes over the top of out of the river over the divide in 23 and comes across. That skate park will be underwater all the time. But anyway, Washington Park right now is not as detrimental as these other two areas. So just keep that in mind. Those two areas are worse.
Thanks, Frank. Okay, are we pretty much okay, council, with what we're going to go forward then? Okay. Councilman Phelan over there, you okay?
What?
You okay?
You guys got 3, don't worry about it.
We're not voting.
We're not voting.
No.
You okay with the direction?
No. There you go, you got 3, don't worry about it, right?
It's not a vote.
That's it, you got
No,
three.
we're not voting.
Next item on the agenda is manager's report. Ms. Marsh.
I have no report.
Oh, come on.
Make something up. Okay, Councilman Florence Lynn.
Running well. We're looking forward to our new manager.
Yeah, I thought he might be here.
Are you throwing the old manager under the bus?
All right, you want me to go?
Yes.
All right. The Economic Development Committee, as you know, met. One thing I'll talk about that later. I do want to talk about the name change. I noticed we're interchangeably
We're not changing the name.
using commission and committee. I keep saying on that. So we'll look back at the paperwork and the ordinance, but I'm seeing commission from when it was
I believe it's
formed.
commissioned.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, so I looked that up, and I think we should probably go back to using that term. Anyway, they're starting to get their business owner surveys back. I'm sorry, the building owner surveys back that they submitted online. I'll forward you all the links so you can see how the answers have been coming in. But it's been a good survey so far. They've gotten maybe 9 or 10 respondents as of a week ago, so I'll distribute that. Also, we've been collaborating, as you know, with the Chamber. The mayor and I went to the Chamber meeting last night, and there's been members of the EDC there as well. They've been collecting data and input from business owners, and a report and a presentation will be given to council on that in the future. Actually, Jim Sardo, the new president of the Chamber, was going to come tonight, but then he got tied up, and last night the direction from the mayor was not to present until the new manager is here, so.
One thing, though, that they did say, which I found very, nothing that we don't know, but, when they opened up the forum, and they said, what Pequannock needs is diversity.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. So we got to figure out how to allow that to happen.
I agree.
Also, the library board, we all know, I mentioned this last time, that the grand opening and the ribbon cutting of the children's room is 1 o'clock on Sunday, May 20th, so I hope everyone can make that. And everything else I have can wait.
Okay. Councilman Cole.
Fair Housing did not meet last month. Nicholas was ill. Parks and Rec met last night. Both rangers were present, Tyler and Taylor. Tyler is a female and Taylor is a male. Barb calls them Harry and Mary or something because the names are too close. So we're back up to 2 part-time rangers. Ribbon cutting for the swim lanes will be Friday, June 22nd at 3:30. PV Park opens Saturday, May 26th. And the first aid squad meeting will be this coming Monday. That's all I have.
Okay, Councilman.
I'll also mention, which everyone knows on council, we lost one of our oldest residents, Herb Sharwell, who we recognized here for his 100th birthday. He passed away on May 2nd, so.
Yeah, sad. His services were today, right?
Yeah, I stopped by today. So.
Yeah.
He was 101 and 15/16ths.
101 and
That was according to his daughter.
Wow.
I tell you what, though, when he was here, he was still pretty active.
Yeah.
At 100.
That's amazing, I know.
I'll never make it to 100.
Yes, you will. Councilman Phelan?
I'll never make it to 100 either, Dave, so don't feel bad.
So we won't celebrate.
Right, don't celebrate. Fire Company 1 met on Friday. Everybody's getting ready for the Memorial Day Parade, which is coming, what is it, 2 weeks from now? Somewhere around there. 2-3 weeks from now.
I understand the weather's going to be nice.
Yes.
Did you order that up, or?
No, Lou did.
May 28th.
He's being threatened.
Okay. And that's it. Company 2 meets Thursday, and that's it right now.
Okay, I have a couple things. The Historic Society is going to do their dedication for the Martin Berry House October 13th.
We're definite, right?
Definite.
What is it?
October 13th. I don't have the time, but I'm sure it's
I'm sure we'll hear more about
Yeah,
that.
hear more. And also, the Martin Berry House and the station will both be in the Pathways Historic Tour on 9/22 and 9/23. So we'll have 2 properties on that tour in Morris County, so they're all excited about that. The Environmental Bio Blitz is this Saturday at 9 a.m. If anybody wants to attend that, that's open to the public. And anybody on council, I did it last year, it was a lot of fun. They have a bird caller and somebody who understands invertebrates and all kinds of things. It's very environmental. It's rain or shine, too.
It's going to be nice on Saturday.
Is it? So that's at 9 o'clock, and then usually there's a pizza party afterwards. So it's usually from about 9 to 12. What else? We have our meeting tomorrow night at 7:30. And also, members of council, we attended, and we were certified in mental health first aid training. That was put on by Newbridge. And that was really eye-opening and really informative. I really feel that, I don't feel like I'm an expert, but I actually feel that I did pick up some tips that if somebody was in crisis, that I might be able to at least guide them into the right direction. So I highly recommend any of that training. They have it for youth. We did it for youth, but they have it for adults and for seniors. So I would look for that as it's advertised, and I would definitely recommend anybody take advantage of that. And I believe that Councilman Cole, Angela said that she may be bringing that forward to the Board of Ed, that she was so impressed with it. Yeah, so that was really good. So that's all I have. So next on the agenda is public comment. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized. Come to the microphone, provide your name and address for the record. Sandy?
Sandy LaCourte, 4 Pateri Place. I attended the Youth Mental Health First Aid, and thank you very much. It was an excellent program. I agree with you. In the meantime, I had also been looking at the past skate park, the presentation that was done, the original one, and I thought it was interesting because one of the 3 students that got up, I didn't realize said, we just need something, we don't need, and this was before the term best in New Jersey skate park, and that little girl said, "We just want something." And I just thought that was very telling, again, to my point that I think it's a situation where it's gotten out of hand, with adults planning and not with what kids need. I did attend the Teen Advisory Committee also, and after the mayor stepped out and Stacy was not in there, but Judy, the other leader, asked the kids, she was throwing out ideas, what would you like to do? And she mentioned the skate park, and one of the four who was there, one was a boy, and he said, "That's so stupid." And then the other girl said, "Nobody even really skates anyhow. Nobody skateboards." So even in the Teen Advisory Committee, it's not like they were crying out for this kind of thing. She threw out a bunch of ideas, and the only one that they both jumped on was that, and that they felt that it was ridiculous. And I just thought that that was a very telling situation. So I'd like to offer that we move along with the rail trail idea and do some skate spots instead of a skate park. And I looked into some fitness equipment that you can do like on a park course on a trail, and you just add these different pieces. And so if you said you had $100,000, you pick pieces according. If you have $50,000, you do that. And then you could use this along the rail trail along with some skate spots and stay way within the budget. Meet the need of the students, providing something for people who want to skateboard, and serve a whole new aspect of the community. Anyone who wants fitness things, you could put a couple of playground pieces along the way, so that along this whole rail trail, our town has such diversity that none of the other rail trails really have, where it would attract so many different people, yet it's not a cluster kind of thing. It's a place where it's a moving, flowing vision of something where people could come and enjoy our community. So I'm wondering if we can work with Joe, or how we can work on doing something like that.
Well, that's a county project.
No, this piece of it would be how we would tie into it.
Well, I know,
the pieces.
I've been over to Pequannock Lake. They have something similar to that, and it's not used at all. They have exercise equipment all around the lake, and I've been there several times, and so I don't know, that's something you might want to look into. It is a county project. I mean, we can't just like jump out.
I'm totally not talking about putting it on their part. I'm talking about, as I had suggested before, that we have a few stations tied in, and I don't care what they are. I mean, things that
I could suggest this, Sandy, that maybe you want to go to a Parks and Rec meeting and attend, and maybe that's something that they want to vet.
Okay, but what about the idea of skate spot instead of skate park? That way we stay within budget. That way we utilizing equipment that's already been donated. That way we serve the community need, and then we don't go overboard. What about a skate spot instead of a skate park? Have any of you considered that before?
If it's possible, it needs to be just,
We, back in 2015, had a skate advisory committee that was formed of skaters, because none of us are skaters.
True.
And we wanted them to do that and to vet out the project, and they did that, and they went before Parks and Rec Committee, and they vetted that, and then they came to here. So you're talking about a whole different concept that none of us are skaters, and any of these projects, I would think, would be vetted through Parks.
Well, that was in their presentation. I didn't know there was such thing as a skate spot. And by the way, that committee, I've seen the attendance, and there wasn't a whole bunch of skaters. There was Steve and Jordan, and then for a little while, there was the gentleman from across the street from the church, and sometimes Rich came. But there were very few people involved, and the student barely showed up because we did a spreadsheet on the attendance. So it was not this great, wonderful, well-represented committee. It was something that kind of got taken over. And if you'd like to see, Janice prepared the entire attendance sheet of the entire program every time that they met, using their own records to create this attendance sheet. And you'll see that it isn't as you're representing, that it was this, really great, robust committee. It dwindled down to just a few people, and then the the guy who wants to build the best in New Jersey skate park. So I was very disappointed when I started really looking into all that and seeing, how this is being portrayed, that there was this great robust committee and that everyone had input, because that's not really how it went down. So if you're saying I need to go to the Parks and Rec...
Do you have any other comments, Sandy?
Pardon?
Do you have anything else?
Do I need to go to Parks and Rec first then? Is that what you're saying? And if that's the case, why didn't it go through them? How did it get to be an ad hoc committee of the council? That's never been done for a recreation program before. I went through the recreation records, and Denise Fafaro specifically said that any of those kind of programs should be under Parks and Rec advisory, so I don't understand how that ever got to be at a council level. So, does anyone...
I'm not sure what your question is, Sandy.
My question is, how did something that is under Parks and Rec advisory get the go-ahead to form in 2015 an ad hoc committee under the council when there was no...
Direction of the manager.
Yeah, right.
No, actually, it was at the... I was on the council meeting. It was brought up by our mayor then, which was Catherine, to start an ad hoc committee through the council rather than through
We do
Parks
many
and
ad
Rec.
hoc committees. That's not the only ad hoc committee we've done. We do...
For recreation.
Oh, for recreation. It's something we weren't familiar with. It's something that we wanted to vet with people who knew that.
We had
That's
an
why we
ad
did
hoc
that.
committee for the joint study committee between the Boys and Girls Club and the town to possibly do a joint community center.
Exactly.
That's recreation.
Okay, Sandy, I think...
Okay, all right.
The council has the authority to do the ad hoc committees, so...
Okay.
And I think that you've made your point quite clear.
Thank you. All right, bye.
Stacy? Ladies first, Jordan.
No, I said...
Stacy Ann Webb, 289 Boulevard, Pompton Plains of Pequannock Township. I forgot earlier in my TAC report to thank Sandy for all her help with setting up for the TAC meeting. She was very instrumental in decorating. However, she may have misconstrued what some of the students had said. And based on the sports that the teams were involved in, which were cheerleading, softball, I believe one was football, but I'm not positive on that one. Those are not the kids that would ideally use the skate park. They wouldn't be limited to, or not allowed to use the skate park. But that's not necessarily the child that would be looking to use the skate park.
Stacy, I don't think the teen advisory committee was put together for a skate park.
They weren't, but that's the point that Sandy's trying to make. We were trying to give the teens of this town a voice so that they felt comfortable enough to come to the council, introduce them to the way municipal government works.
Right, but my point is that was not put together just for skating. That was put together as an advisory committee.
Exactly.
For everything.
Well, what I understand is that wasn't a committee meeting, that was an event.
Right, that was an event. It was not a committee meeting. These are not the teens that are on the committee as of yet. They did fill out applications.
Goes over my head.
It was a recruiting tool.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a recruiting meeting. So we had a great time, and we all sat there, like I said earlier, and had a nice powwow session about all different topics in town. So I feel it was a little unjust to have Sandy come up here and specifically spout off about the skate park.
Okay, but Stacy, just so you know, we realized the teen committee was put together to hear the ideas of the teens.
Of the teens, not adults.
Exactly. We understand that. Okay, and we hope the best for the teen committee.
Exactly.
No, thank you.
Thanks.
Jordan?
Jordan Galliano, 10 Peck Avenue, Pompton Plains. A few comments in regards to locations that we did look at back in, actually the date that I have on my notebook was January 16th when we discussed and looked at the various locations. Like Steve said, Railroad area and PV Park, those are viable options, but because of the flood issue, that kind of got ruled out, and that would be a little bit more difficult, and it's in a more residential area. And then, of course, with the proposal for back here behind Town Hall, that was proposed back in 2008 when Kathy was involved with her son and her friends, his friends. But nonetheless, when it comes to the resolution, or the letter, sorry, we just need something, and then as long as we can figure it out along the way and then nail down the exact location, we can run with that. In comments to the skate spots along the rail trail, I don't see that happening at all. I've been to literally countless skate parks across the country and the world. I've been to Panama, and every skate park is its own individual location.
Jordan, does Panama have skate parks?
Yes, Panama does have skate parks, yes. Very nice. Yeah. In Paraíso, beautiful, right along the Panama Canal. So, in regards to the comment with having a skate spot along a walking path, I don't think that will ever work, because I've never been to a skate spot along a walking path. Usually if it's a skate spot, it's generally not permitted for skateboarding and you get kicked out for it. I've heard of one in Morristown, but I've never seen any photos or heard of anybody going to it. That's why skate parks are more prominent and they're isolated facilities. So if we were to have skate spots along a walking path, nonetheless, a county project that has already been through the permitting and DEP involvement with that, if we were to jump in and say like, hey, we want to have a part of this, that's going to set back Joe Wells's progress on the project by years.
Well, I don't think you're going to touch his project.
No, exactly, and that's what we don't want to do. Like, we don't want to step on somebody's toes that have been doing something for so long.
Well, I think one thing is
like
what you're trying to do is build community.
Exactly. Yeah. But the other thing too, with having skate spots along a walking path, and something like that is all-encompassing for everybody in a community, young people, old people, families, and who's to say that if you have a skate spot along a walking trail and somebody falls on their skateboard and the skateboard shoots out and it hits an elderly person in the ankle, potentially breaking their leg or whatever, the town is going to be liable for more insurance or more of a lawsuit, as opposed to having an isolated facility where the participants know the risk that they're at when they step on foot on a skate park, because everyone is at fault for their own injuries, and it's not like going on a bike path and you don't have to worry about having to get hit by a rogue skateboard, and that's not safe. And to have it in a controlled, isolated environment is the best solution for what we want to do.
Thank you. And Jordan, I have a question for you also.
Sure.
You attended the training on Saturday. How did you feel about the training?
It was good. I definitely took a lot to heart with growing up, with dealing with a lot of self-doubt and stuff growing up, being a skateboarder and getting bullied because of being like one of the only skateboarders in town.
Yeah.
And
do you recommend that training to others?
Absolutely, because with that, it kind of helped me understand like what I struggled with growing up, and if I had a facility for me to practice something that I loved and kind of take my mind off of what was going on, that would benefit a lot of other teens in town. And the last thing I want to say too, when Brad was here on February 27th, I think it was Melissa who asked a question of if it was in a separate location, what would the price difference be? And I believe Brad said anywhere from like $20,000 to $35,000 if it was in a different location. Less, yes. But that's because of the location at Washington Park being in a 100-year floodplain with doing the water mitigation involvement and stuff. So if it was somewhere else, like say behind here, but I don't want to open that debate up, but if it was anywhere else that wasn't considered a floodplain, which is very rare in our town, it would be saving us a little bit of money. So that's just something to think about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharon?
Good evening, Council. Sharon Taylor, 19 Libby Avenue, Pompton Plains. I'd just like to make a correction in regards to a comment that was made about the Pequannock Skate Park Advisory Committee in attendance. That group, I'm looking back at my notes, and that formed in November 2015 when the first meeting happened, and I was a part of it from the beginning as just a resident, and there were other youth, young adults and youth there. There was actually a youth person that was representing part of the skate park that was voted on or asked to be a part of. So there are other attendants. I think that some of the individuals that were commenting about attendance showed up 2 years later, August 2017. So I just like to validate that being a part of that committee, I showed up for attendance just like every other committee that's in this township. Everybody's welcome to come. It was announced. I've been here for all the council meetings, and anybody's welcome to join. So there were other people in attendance, and it was young adults and young kids as well.
We made every attempt to make sure everybody knew that there were...
Yes, and I can validate that the council did announce it. The representatives for the committee, they did come up here and always give a report out for the meeting. I actually have all their notes from 2015 and on. Okay?
Thank you, Sharon. Quick, Jordan, and then you're it.
Jordan Galliano, you know me. Again, with the attendance and everything, when we first started doing the ad hoc committee, we didn't follow Carol's, or we didn't know to follow Carol's agenda breakdown for like how the meetings went.
That's just something new.
Yeah, it was just something new. So when we did it, I didn't take attendance of everybody that came to the meetings. I only took attendance of individuals that were on the committee.
Sharon did.
Sharon took attendance, don't worry about it.
Yeah, Sharon did, but me as the secretary, then it was just the attendance for the members of the committee.
We don't have any questions.
That would be who you typically take attendance.
Yes, yeah, but then afterwards,
Well,
like...
we take attendance.
Yeah, but then after we got the...
You did it right, Jordan.
Yeah, no, I know, I just want to clarify.
You're fine, Jordan.
And it was 9 in the morning, yeah.
Don't worry about it.
9 in the morning.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You're all volunteers. You're all volunteers. Don't worry. We appreciate your work. Okay. We're done. Are there any minutes? No. No minutes for approval. Next on the agenda, any closed?
There is no closed session, but I did want to announce the Cedar Crest people did finally sign off on the settlement agreement, so that is finished.
Yay, we should have a party.
Yeah, would that take 4 or 5 years? How long?
Probably 10 closed sessions, but we're there.
Or more. Okay, so there's no closed session. So do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.